Welcome back to the WinShape Marriage Podcast. We are so excited to be back for season 3. Thank you so much for tuning in. And we are going to kick off season 3, episode 1, with none other than Bob Goff. So research shows that couples who laugh together are more likely to report greater relationship satisfaction. And there are few people who embody that joy better than Bob Goff, whose life is a masterclass in not taking yourself too seriously. Today, we're going to talk with him about how to embody love and laughter in your relationship and marriage. And you'll hear sweet stories from Bob about his wife, Sweet Maria, and how being a student of your spouse can change the game for your marriage. You're certain to enjoy this conversation and, more importantly, these stories from Bob. Let's get into it. Bob Goff, welcome to the WinShape Marriage Podcast. We are delighted to have you.
Oh, thanks a million. Great to be with you guys. You're doing good work and touching a lot of lives.
Yeah. Well, we know we could say the same about you. And so before we jump in, I know you are a well-known author and speaker, husband. I want to hear a little bit. This is the WinShape Marriage Podcast after all. So I want to hear a little bit about you and Maria. Tell me a little bit about how long y'all been married, how you met her, your favorite things about her.
Yeah, you bet. Well, we call her Sweet Maria around here.
Okay.
It's not like we're trying to talk her into it. She just is. And the mailman carriers calls him that, and everybody does. We've been married 39 years and 12 days. Okay. I'm keeping track. I'm
how many
up.
hours and minutes? And
Yeah, she's counting down. I'm counting up.
Okay.
And we made 3 people, which was so fun. And now they got married to 3 people, and then they made 4 people so far.
Wow.
So we are a church of 12. So we are small but mighty. We live in San Diego for most of the year, and then the things that I do with an outfit called Love Does takes me to different places. There's about 14 countries that we're doing things in, and so I move around a fair amount with that. And then we have a retreat center out here in San Diego called the Oaks, and we love doing some stuff with WinShape too, out there. So that's been fun. It was actually was the place that Sweet Maria and I met. I guess 42 years ago.
Okay.
She was there and was like leading some people and all that. And I showed up because I knew she was going to be there. And so, gosh, it was 3 kids, and maybe 35 years later, it came up for sale. They just put a for sale sign on the highway. So they did that at 12 and I bought it at 1. Kind of sentimental. So that's what we've been doing. We'll serve, I think I was talking to the chef there, and they served 25,000 meals this year. So there's a lot of people that come and just get better at whatever they need to get better at.
Yeah, absolutely. So other than the fact that she's sweet, and then you got to make some beautiful babies with her, what's your favorite thing about Maria?
Let's see. She would describe herself as a sports car with a small gas tank. So she's able to do like a sprint, but then it takes her a lot of time to kind of recharge after that. So she can go fast for a short period of time. And then I'm like ADD boy. I'm just like all gas, no brakes. So she is the one that just kind of sets the cadence. I think if it was me, no children would have been fed or clothed or whatever. We would have been having a blast.
Right.
But she just brings order to the chaos and the spirit of grace and kindness and things and patience.
Yeah.
And I'm on the other hand, I make coffee nervous. I'm just like, so I love this idea in John 17 when they talk about the two becoming one, that oneness doesn't mean sameness. Like, so our hearts can be together, but we have a different cadence. Out at the Oaks, we have Tennessee trotters, and they kind of skip along as those horses are going through the field. We've got race horses, and they kind of gallop. Right. And then we've got trail horses that kind of plod along. And so with each of them, if you turn, did you know this? If you turn all those horses out in the same field, after a little while, their hearts sync up. They start beating together. Isn't that
I did
crazy?
not know that. That's
Because they're
wild.
animals of prey. And so when one of them gets alarmed, then they all get alarmed. Is that
Wow.
crazy? So
Whoa.
we use these horses for equine therapy, and we're just always learning a ton. And I would say that's one thing that we share together.
I love
We're
the
very
relief
curious.
that provides, like you were saying, becoming one but not becoming the same. Because how much pressure you feel if you have to just turn around and be the same exact person that your spouse is, or that you expect for them to do the same for you. But
Yeah,
the idea that
yeah.
you're one together, but that you can still kind of run your own races as well.
Yeah, I'm not holding up a mirror and
Yeah.
saying, be me.
Right.
I'm holding up a trampoline
Yeah.
and say, let's go launch you.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Wow. What a great analogy. So with your, years of marriage experience, I'm curious, do you guys have a couple of principles that you just like these things have kind of withstood the test of time in your marriage? Maybe one or two things that you have stuck to and said, like, these have really been glue for us.
Yeah, here's a great thought. It was all good ideas came from Maria. And early on, she said that we would be 100% kindness and 0% drama. And that was a really helpful thing
Yep.
because I think that's what makes junior high school so difficult because it's 100%
Trauma
drama
and
and 0% kindness. So, but to just be about kindness, not drama. And if your marriage, if your life, if your friendships would make a great daytime TV show, it'll probably make for a lousy marriage or friendship.
Yeah.
And so we're just about trying to be kind. Yeah, and that doesn't mean glossing over the hard stuff, but to approach it for like we're not fighting with each other, we're fighting for each other. At that small tweak, it's just about a quarter of a turn. It makes all the difference. Down there in Hartsfield at the Atlanta airport,
Yes.
when they pushed the jets back, Delta started pushing the jets back, and at the end of the pushback, they give it a quarter of a turn. And I think they quantified they save like 1 million gallons of fuel a year because by giving it a quarter turn, it's already kind of faced in the right direction. So just like that idea of just constantly making little quarter turn changes in your life, in your marriage. So instead of the big, 180s, just these little quarter turns. I got to tell you, some kid called me up not too long ago and he said, I'd read some of your books and he said, I've just done a 360-degree change in my life. I'm like, buddy, you're right back where
That's where you started.
You need a quarter turn.
You need 180 degree, I
Yeah,
think. I don't do
you
math
seem to
though.
back that off a little bit.
Yeah.
But again, that idea that this idea of a marriage is that it's not that we do things and like the Olympics, they hold up scorecards, like the Russian judge is a 10 or a 1 or a whatever, and the other judge is a 4. We're not holding up these scorecards. What we do is that what we're doing is we're trying to point each other towards Jesus and the people around us in that direction. And if faith doesn't guide their steps, then we just try to point them towards kindness.
Yeah.
So you know who it is that's in the chair and what you're trying to do. So I write books for a person who I have in my mind is the guy at the tire store. He's not at the front row of the church. He's not at the back row. He's not mad. He's just adjacent.
Yeah.
So finding that person that's adjacent to faith. And I just want people to know, gosh, come in. It's safe here.
Yeah.
Like you can come in and we can have safe conversations about important things.
Yeah.
If you could cultivate that in your marriage, safety above anything, then I think that that would be like a really great place for people to flourish because we kind of grow. I bet the same is true for you. When you feel safe, then we're great. If you don't feel safe, then it's like really halting and awkward because you're trying to find safety.
And you're trying to protect like yourself and you
Yeah.
don't feel as, certainly not as open willing to talk through things.
Oh, it's like why I put my cell phone number in the back of 3 million books. So I still get 100 calls a day. And when somebody calls and they have me on a speakerphone, then it isn't like makes me feel unsafe, like they're going to do something bad to me. But maybe 3 times each week, somebody will put that up on YouTube. And I thought I was just talking to them.
Right.
And what they have is the speakerphone. And it just feels lame. So what I want us to do is in our communications with one another, say, what is the most personal way I can do that? So whatever is the most personal way I can do it, that's what I want to do. I'm not looking for efficiency in my marriage. I'm looking for presence. I'm looking for safety.
Yeah.
I think if we got our minds around a couple of those concepts, we'd be further down the road.
I think some of the, like, even one-liners, it feels not so daunting, like these big ideas. It's like I hear you say presence, kindness, safety, even a small quarter turn. It feels like something that you can achieve a step at a time rather than feeling like you've got to scale, the entire mountain up, like right away.
Oh, yeah. It's like somebody showing you a really complicated equation and you just got, I don't know.
Yeah.
And I mean, here's Jesus, the smartest theologian ever to walk the earth. And he points to 2 sheep. And he said, it's like when one of those gets away.
Yeah.
And everybody's like, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Right.
So I think if we could it's not dumbing it down, it's just making it relatable. And then find the stories. If you can hold a secret, and Marie doesn't listen to this, because
no promises.
But I've been, she told me, I bet 25 years ago, that she didn't think I listened to her. And I'm like, what? So what I started doing, and have been doing for a quarter of a century, is I write down everything she says. Is that crazy? Now, she'll say something awesome, and I'll get up, I'll leave the room so I can write it down. I think she thinks I have a bladder problem. But what I'm actually doing is I'm writing down, I've got 800 pages, single spaced.
Wow.
So of all the things, and when I'm not trying to win a bet, but we're going to be in our 90s, and I'm going to have several thousand pages of things she said. And I just appointed myself her biographer. I'm telling you, if you decide that you want to be your spouse's biographer and you want to write down everything cool that they say, you'll be more engaged. You'll be more interested.
Right.
You want to have a noteworthy marriage? Take notes. Just take notes.
Yeah.
Say like, this is the craziest thing, like whatever that was, and say, there was somebody that emailed me yesterday, and they said, hey, Bob, we want you to come on this thing down the Rhine River, and you'll have all of your expenses paid and all your whatevers, and we'll stay in this fancy place and this and this and this. And so knowing Maria is a sports car with a small gas tank, I wrote back and I said, that was so thoughtful of you to even think of us. We can't do that, but wow, thank you so much for like that really kind invitation. And they wrote back and they said, wrong Bob. They had another friend named Bob, and they put my email by mistake. Man, they missed their chance.
What if you had said yes?
What they should have said is, we're so disappointed that you can't attend with us. But they said wrong Bob, and I thought, I'm going to write that down. And so what this is right out of Matthew 13. It said Jesus never spoke to anybody without telling them a story or two. And so I think if we take notes about the things that are going on, and maybe the next time I mess up, I'll just tell sweet Maria, wrong Bob. So
maybe that will be the title of your biography.
Wrong Bob.
Yeah.
I learned early on when you're writing books that you fail in chapter 4, because chapter 1's too early and chapter 30 is too late. So you just need to fail, and it can't be like this went wrong, but then Jesus showed up and everything's great now. It's just like, no, just like it just did not work. And there's no resolution. It just fell flat. And somebody asked me once if I would write a marriage book. And so what I did is I got on Amazon And I got every marriage book out there. Now they all started arriving on my porch, like dozens of marriage books. I started stacking them up on my nightstand. And sweet Marie is thinking she just won the lotto in husbands who just all these marriage books. And then one day they were all gone. And she said, "Where are all the marriage books?" And without thinking, I told her I hired somebody to read them all and summarize them so I could see if there's anything that hasn't been said already. And she's like, "Wait a second. You hired somebody to read the marriage books for you?" I'm like, "Well, yes." I'm thinking, wrong Bob.
Wrong, wrong.
I had a chance. I should have said so I could study them more deeply and all that. But the trick in writing is you fail in chapter 4. And if I was going to write a marriage book, I think it'd be called chapter 4.
Okay.
Because I don't like lily pad from big win to big win to big win. And it can sound like that when we're talking about our marriages and our relationships and all that. But it's actually in the failures when you miss it that you actually get a cleaner, more accurate view of who you are and where you can grow. Does that make sense? Would that be your experience?
Well, I was going to say, I wonder if the chapter analogy, if that's the case, then we failed in year 4 and we're on to year 7. So we're moving right along in the,
Yeah.
but
So
no, I'm like, if
but
chapter
when we
1,
have a mess up, something goes wrong. I remember coming back from one of these countries, and when I pulled into the driveway, in the front window was a help wanted sign. And so Maria wasn't saying she needed help. She was saying, "Buddy, you are missing it. You are missing it. You are all over the place." And the whole idea is that we can sometimes get confused that providing for our families is doing these things when we're really not providing what they really need, which is presence. And so actually to show up, and I'm writing a book called right now, Love Shows Up. And so there's all my thoughts are kind of a constellation of ideas around that idea of the importance of when we show up. Philippians 2:20, Paul talking about Timothy, there's nobody like him. He's a guy who takes a genuine interest in the people around him. What if we were to hover like God created? And the second thing he did is he hovered. So hover over your spouse. Ask yourself, what do they uniquely need that only I could give them? If you made some people, hover over each one of those. What do they uniquely need? Because if they need a ride somewhere, they could get that from Uber for $8.
right.
But what they usually need is time. And Uber can't give them that, and somebody else. So if we just were to hover a little bit and say that question, what do they uniquely need? Then what we'll start being is more present. And then we'll start providing what they really need rather than providing cash or the perception of security, when people could have financial security but be emotionally really insecure because they don't know what squirrely thing you're going to do next.
Absolutely. I'm curious for the believer. I know earlier we were talking, whether or not, if you're not you, but if you're not a believer, making it still be a safe space. But for the believer, for the couple that is, how can you show Jesus, show the gospel? How can your marriage be an example, an outward example of the gospel? How, what would you say?
Yeah. I really like this Matthew 16, that Simon Peter, who does everybody say I am? And then he said, some people say you're a teacher, and Jesus was all of that. And other people say a prophet, and he was that too. But then Simon Peter said, but I think you're God. And Jesus' response to that always kind of cracked me up, because it said, don't tell anyone. I'm like, wait a second. But there's a little clarity in the next verse. It said, flesh and blood didn't reveal that to you, but the Spirit of God did. And the reason that came to mind is when you talk about how do we show people what we believe, I would say don't tell anybody. Show people. This is Acts. It says that they saw Peter and John, and they saw their courage, and they knew they'd been with Jesus. So that idea, let people see your courage, let people see your selflessness, let people see, without making a big deal about it, but to just see the way that you're doing life. And they'll just know you've been with Jesus, because it'll be the Spirit of God that'll let them know, and not some slick, cut the deal kind of thing for us. Because I don't have enough snappy things to say.
Yeah.
Nor would anybody listen to anything snappy I had to say.
I don't
But
know.
if
You've
they
had a couple of
see
snappy
something,
things for
but if they see something in your life, they go like, "Oh, you're on to something,"
right.
whatever that is. We call it around here strategic whimsy.
Okay.
So the idea of whimsy isn't just like, glitter and confetti and streamers, but it's actually, there's a mile of strategy underneath it.
Okay.
We know why we're doing what we're doing.
Okay.
And if you could do that in your marriage, and you think through with your friends, because people aren't projects, people are people, and we're not trying to make our love kind of close the deal on Jesus, because that's what the Holy Spirit does. What we do is just show up with no agenda, because when love has an agenda, it isn't love anymore. It's a program. And I want a program. I just want a friend. I just want somebody who's authentically struggling through the hard parts and celebrating the things that went wrong, and lamenting the things that went or that could have gone better, and all that. I just want somebody that's living this very full life, because that's the one you're living and I'm living.
Yeah.
If somebody comes across a little plastic, I just go like, I don't know, it doesn't feel safe.
Yeah. Yeah. Strategic whimsy. What's the most strategic but like planned but outlandish thing you and Marie have ever done together?
Well, we started, I want to say 27 years ago. I was a trial lawyer. Can you believe that? So I was doing that, but I wanted to do more. I felt like I had more game than that. And so I started building schools in Uganda. And we told 400,000 kids in the middle of the Civil War that were out of school that you can come to our school for free. And the first day, 9 kids showed up.
Wow.
Out of 400,000. I was like,
you're
"Rats."
like, that's not what I was thinking.
But we got a soccer team.
Right.
But then it went from 9 to 19, and I'll fly over in a couple of weeks to graduate 2,000 kids.
You have how many soccer teams now?
2,000 living on campus.
Wow.
And so the big, like that strategic whimsy kind of thing, I decided a couple of years ago, let's build a university. We want to go from diapers to doctorate.
Okay.
Take these kids that started out in a hut, and this is the #1 school in all of northern Uganda now. So it's got 58 buildings in it. And so we just bought a huge chunk next to it to build the university, and we're breaking ground like in 3 weeks.
Wow.
So the idea of like having something that launches you, but then the whimsy part about it, I thought, what if we have a zoo? And it turns out you can't call them zoos. They're habitats. I'm
Right.
like, whatever, it's a zoo. So I was trying to pick what kind of animals we would get in the zoo.
Okay.
And I was thinking, what animal doesn't bite people and is hard to lose? And then I thought, giraffes. So it turns out the president of Uganda owns all the giraffes. I guess it's a perk of the job.
Okay.
So I don't know him, but I know his wife pretty well. So I sat down with her and we talked giraffes, and she ran over, grabbed him by the ear, and we sat down and talked giraffes. Last time I was there for 1 hour, and I walked out with 6 giraffes. So here's the idea. Take an idea and then just blow on those flames. This is, again, Paul to Timothy, to fan the flames on the unique gift that God has given you, whatever that is. So if you're listening and this isn't your vibe, but you've got a different vibe, different way of doing things, go do that. And don't go across an ocean, go across the street, because you only find 2 things in the scripture about going across an ocean. You got like Jonah got eaten and like Paul got shipwrecked. So go across the street, because if it isn't going to work at the end of your street, it ain't going to work at the ends of the earth. So I just love that idea. Love your neighbor, love God, go do that stuff right where you live.
Yeah. What are you learning about? What are you most excited about in this season now? You said you have a church of 12. So with the grandchildren, what's something new and just exciting that maybe in this season of marriage, you're like, wow, this wasn't our experience the first, 30 years, but this is something cool now.
Yeah, I'm trying to create more white space in my days. I don't make appointments anymore because I have a standing appointment with the grandkids. So yesterday we did something super important, and I bought a pottery wheel, and we turned $5 of clay into like 10 cents worth of clay. So we so we're making little cups, and we're starting now because we figure we'll be done by Christmas.
Yeah.
So why don't we just create some white space as much as you can, and not fill it with appointments. When somebody says, let's get together for coffee, and then you start this dance, they say, how about Tuesday? You say, oh, I can't do Tuesday. How about Thursday? Oh, I can't do Thursday. How about Wednesday? Okay, my Wednesday. How about 2? How about 1? How about 4? How about now we're on to the place? How about Starbucks? How about Better Buzz? How about this? And you do this huge dance. And I'm just like, I just don't do that anymore. So I just tell people, I give them the flight plan. I say, I'm going to be here, then I'm going to be here, then I'm going to be here. And I would love to see you. And I'll answer my phone.
Right.
So just show up or don't. But I think to find ways to create a little bit more space and a little bit less structure in your life. For some people, that'll be chaos, but for other people, it'll be really freeing.
Yeah.
So I feel like I've been free of making appointments for, I guess, maybe 12 years. Could you imagine a lawyer that doesn't make appointments?
I'm trying to wrap my brain around it.
Yeah, here's where I am. So wouldn't that be freeing to just say, so instead of doing the dance about how about this, how about this, how about this, just tell people where you're going to be. So if I go to Nashville, I say, I'll be at the Frothy Monkey from 10 to 2. And coffee's on me.
Right.
I'll just let all my friends know, and they come, don't know, don't come, whatever.
Right.
That has been such a freeing strategy to create the white space so that I can make teacups with my kids.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because if I fill it with all these scheduled things, then I can't make the teacups.
And I love that. I certainly don't have grandkids, but I do have a new daughter. So I love even thinking about that. Like, how can I, rather than, we've added this new person into our unit, but it doesn't necessarily have to come with new appointments and new lists and new things. How can I create some white space for her and for us with this new addition in our family?
Yes. How about next time she's asleep, if that occurs, you take her thumb and memorize her thumbprint. You be the only person on earth that knows her thumbprint, which is the only thumbprint that looks like hers. And it's not so you can break into her safety deposit box later, although that could be handy. But instead, you're like, something about her. I know everything about you. It'll be such a great reminder about God knowing every hair on our heads, every thought and desire. So as we start living those things out, I think some really beautiful things emerge. So bringing that kind of creativity and whimsy right under your roof, to create those things, those adventures and that treasure hunt. And what I was thinking about when my kids were young, like your child's age, I was thinking I wanted to be friends with them when they're in their 30s. And so now they're like 36, 34, 32. So now they're there, and I bet I see each of them a couple times a week. So one lives 5 minutes that way, and another is 5 minutes that way, and everybody. So that would be the goal. I would be thinking, what are the things I can do right now as a parent that 15 years in the future we'll have more to talk about? A shared experience. Acts 2 and 4, they break bread together, and my boys could just pound carbs. So we just go to Waffle House and just eat all the carbs.
Do they have those in California, Waffle House?
No, when we were on the roll, but
okay.
IHOP is the local one. Yeah, but the whole idea to just fill them up. And I just remember sitting in awe of a 12-year-old boy and how many pancakes he could put down. But now that 12-year-old's 32,
right,
and every once in a while we'll go back to IHOP just to watch him order the lean stuff now. I'm like, come on. I liked it when you're just so create those memories now, all those little things, and they're just like deposits in the future. And you already know that. Everybody listens already know that. What we need to do is do it.
Right.
So move from agreeing to like doing. If you take agreeing with Jesus off the table, the only thing that's left is doing it or not. And there's nothing bad about that, but I kind of like it that it forces my hand.
Now, you may not know this, which is why I called you on it. I'm a Waffle House connoisseur over here.
Are you?
So
You know.
I am like once a week at Waffle House. We took our
Yes.
daughter 3 weeks old to Waffle House.
Well, for a guy who writes books for a living, if I'm ever hit a dry spell and don't know what to talk about, I just go park at Waffle House
Right.
and just listen to the conversations. I walk away with so many,
Yes.
like somebody with a big old truck and a big old dog and a big old whatever. Like it's rich.
Yes, it is. Oh man, we have one walking distance from our house, which is terrible for
Come
us.
on, that'll help raise property values.
Yeah.
Just the fact. But I think that I would say whimsy and wonder, again, that strategic whimsy and wonder. It sounds like it's boasting, but I grew up in a castle, and my grandparents, my grandmother was a telephone operator. She plugged the cords in to connect calls. And my grandfather was a longshoreman. He worked the graveyard shift putting out fires, but he never put out a fire. Not
wow.
even sure if he knew how to. But they lived in by any other measure, just a normal house in San Jose, California. But they told me it was a castle, and I believe them. And they painted it pink. Get this, property values cratered for miles. White trim, hot pink. That was their house because they got in their mind that that's what castles look like. And they were so wealthy, they didn't even need to make their own food. There was evidently some guy named Swanson that made all the meals for them. And they would let me pull back the cobbler, the tin,
Right.
on this like TV dinners to brown the cobbler. Did you ever do that?
Oh yes. Yes.
I just
Salisbury
love
steak
that.
was our
So
TV dinner.
what I
choice.
want to do is for you and I to think about how do we continue to create those memories for our kids? How do we do the next thing that gets them engaged?
And then you'll have a pretty good bank of things that when your grandkids do come around, you're like, I already have like a good bank of things here for
I
creating whimsy
know.
for them.
And my grandmother paid me room rent. I had a room in their castle, and anytime she went in the room or thought about me, she put a nickel in the drawer and she paid room rent. And so I would run into the castle. There was no drawbridge, just a front door. And I would run upstairs and would see all these nickels. And it was like my grandmother telling me that she came into the room and was thinking about me and I got a nickel. I just like those little traditions, like, that's just rich.
What's the inflation on that now? What would be
I know that's like, a nickel back then is, I'm 66, so I don't know what that's like $19 now.
Yeah. Well, I've really just enjoyed just the conversation of storytelling and just to get people's wheels turning. Like, what stories do we have? Like, how have we already created this fun and this whimsy in our marriage? Like, how can we have more moments like that? And just by doing that, love, I think that's your original book, right? Love does. Like, just by doing that, that shows others Jesus in you too, but also just creates a lot of fun, in your
Yeah,
own.
and take agreeing with Jesus off the table, because I've scanned the scriptures pretty hard and I've found one time that he ever asked the disciples to agree with him. He's just like, do it. Like, just do this or don't, but don't be like a 1 foot in each camp. So, and you don't need to be big and grand and all that. I've never given Maria a daisy that had more than 3 petals on it. And the first time she's like, what? And then she's like, I get it. He loves me. He loves me not. He loves me. So it's a silly thing. It's not an expense. It's just saying, hover over those people that you love and just be Jesus into their life. And then bring whatever amount of whimsy and creativity. There's something about that. Start at dinner time. Instead of saying, how was your day? And then you say, fine. And then you ask your spouse and they say, fine. And you ask your kids, and if they're old enough, they'll say, fine. Say, what if we just draw what our day was like? We've got a piano in the living room. And I would come home because as a lawyer, I have to like keep secrets for a living. So what I would do is every night play how my day was. And if it was a really great day, I'd be up in the high keys over here. If it was a really bad day, I'd be bang them all. But then Maria would turn it, she'd say, tell me more about your day, which would be like that. Wait, just so draw how your day was. I promise you, you will frame those pictures from your kids, maybe from yourself, later in your hallway, and this will be the story of your life. Ah, I love that. Bind it up. That's a really cool thing because then it just gives a new way to express or tie into what it feels like to be the only kid in school that didn't have a seat or the only one that wasn't invited. So this is me and this is everybody. And I'm over here and say, wow, that looks like a big distance. Does it feel like a big distance? And you go like, oh, it feels so big right now. Well, what could we do to close that a little bit? How can we move this person from here to here? What would those, like it just, I don't care if you're 6 or 66, that just works.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, everybody can find all of the books that you've authored online. Is there any other place like people can follow along with you and all of your
just go
adventures?
to a used bookstore. You can get one for a nickel.
Okay.
And it cracks me up that I write books because I could barely spell cat. But what I am is a really good note taker. I just like, even from our time together, I wrote down not mirrors, trampolines, because I hadn't thought of that before. I probably won't think about that again. But the difference between me and the next person is that I'll usually write it down and they'll say, tell me about your conversation. And they'll say, it was great. What I'll say is, I know one of the things we talked about is the difference between holding up mirrors and holding up trampolines to launch people. And so like there's something enduring. That would be my last thought, to just be leaning into that. I'm a big scriptures guy. So just pour over the scriptures and connect these notes. So there's things, I promise you won't find the word trampoline anywhere in the scriptures, but you will find some people who launched people 2 by 2. And then they return to tell Jesus everything they'd seen and done. And just like that will get you into the Word of God. That will get you closer to one another. And you'll have some really great things. And start writing down what your husband talks about, would you?
Yes, absolutely. I'm gonna take that page out of your book because my new goal is gonna be 90 and be writing his autobiography for sure.
Yes.
But I'm a little behind, so I need to catch up. Thank you so much for your time today. Thanks for putting us on some sort of appointment for you. I really do appreciate it. And
this is awesome. This is a delight.
Yeah,
all
absolutely.
right.
Well, we will talk with you again soon, and we'll link all of your stuff in the description of this episode.
Okay, terrific.
We appreciate it. Thanks. We hope that conversation blesses your marriage. If you're loving the WinShape Marriage Podcast, will you please take a moment to make sure you're subscribed? You may be a faithful listener and not realized you aren't subscribed. It really helps us out. Also, if you've enjoyed these conversations and they've impacted your marriage, please rate and review this podcast. One listener said, "Thanks so much for pouring into couples with godly wisdom and practical equipping.